suppose we'll marry our fortunes together.
And for those of you with no culture and no cultural references to lean back on whatsoever, that is the song America by Simon and Garfunkel, because we traveled America. So there you go. So I thought it was an appropriate song for this episode, and during this second episode about our train trip across America, I figured it would be appropriate. So what I want to talk about in this episode, and forgive me if you hear a knock on the door, I am in my hotel room and the maid service has not been by today. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that you don't have to deal with that noise when it comes along, if it does. And hopefully you can hear me okay. Again, I'm trying to be very quiet and respectful, since I am in a hotel room and not in my own home and not in a soundproof room. So bear with me. If you can't hear me, or if the connection cuts out, please let me know, because I'm not on my usual Wi-Fi, and the signal is kind of spotty, hit or miss around here. So first off, for anybody who is looking to travel out west, I want to caution you right now. If you're looking to head to the Pacific coast, the wildfires are quite bad. You may want to rethink a trip out here. Not that it hasn't been nice so far, but there are quite a few wildfires in Canada, and I believe south and east of where I'm at, in Oregon, in the Portland area right now. It is very smoky outside, and especially for those of you who, like myself, suffer from allergies, asthma, environmental issues, autoimmune issues, you might want to kind of reconsider a trip out here at this time. You know what? The Pacific Northwest is going to be here from now on, I promise, until that Cascadia subduction zone erupts and erases us all from the planet. It will be here, I promise. So don't feel like you need to come out right now. I know a lot of people right now who are planning trips out this way, and I just want to caution you, don't come out here right now if you're looking to see sites like Crater Lake or Mount Hood or the Sisters, or even Mount St. Helens. Don't expect to see any of those beautiful sights. It is very smoky, and in fact, many folks have been evacuated from these areas, so please be careful, and please reschedule your trip if you're thinking about heading out this way right now. And for those of you who are listening in Futureland, this right now for me is September 2nd, 2017, and again, I'm in the Portland area in Oregon, and all the way up through Washington, it is quite bad. I would imagine down to the southern part of Oregon, it's probably quite bad too. So just a quick disclaimer on that. For any of you who are thinking about coming out here, please do, but maybe reschedule your trip a little bit. And, obviously consider the traveling conditions as you do, because for those of us who are from slightly more plains-like and flat states, it is important to note that if you're traveling through the mountains in wintertime, or even during the fall or portions of the spring, you may well hit snow and you may well hit ice, and that does include Amtrak as well as driving. So if you're looking for a scenic trip, you may want to plan carefully for an appropriate time of year. I know that some folks, since I did my last episode, have asked about going to Glacier National Park and doing the Going to the Sun Road. And I do suggest that. I think that would be an awesome trip. But again, you're going to want to make sure that you come out during a time when the road is open. You're going to want to make sure that you come out during a time when aren't huge portions of the park that are just frozen off completely. And again, you're going to want to just be careful about cross-country overland travel when it is icy out. And like I said, unfortunately right now, the thing to watch out for is the smoke and the wildfires. It's definitely not a great situation out here right now, but I am going to just kind of cover the Amtrak train trip from here on out, so bear with me. So as far as the accommodations go with the train trip, you're not going to be necessarily living in the lap of luxury, not that you would expect to be on a train trip, but you are going to be, as I mentioned before, for those spoonies out there and for larger folks who might be listening, and taller folks like me too, you're going to want to think very carefully about what accommodations you book. If you book a seat, just a seat in the coach car on Amtrak, you may not be able to put your feet up, depending on if anybody is next to you. You may not be able to put your feet up. Now, you could be going on a one-day trip. You could be going on a 2 or 3 day trip like us. You could be going on a longer trip across the whole country. In my book, with my health issues, I have to be able to put my feet up at some point, okay? So if you want to be able to relax, rest, put your feet up, that sort of thing, I would suggest thinking about a sleeper car accommodation, a sleeper car roomette. There are 2 types, as I mentioned before, of sleeper car roomettes. There's one that's slightly larger, with a small sink so that you can wash your face and brush your teeth in your own room, although you will not have a bathroom, of course, in your own sleeper car roomette. And there are smaller sleeper car roomettes, which actually boast just 2 small seats that transform into a cot, and then there is a fold-down cot above that. So that is the accommodation that my mom and I got to come out here, and that is the accommodation we're going to be booking on the way back. In fact, we did get a round-trip ticket, and so that is 4 nights, 6 days altogether, including the trip out here and the return trip. And so basically we're sleeping in a slightly upgraded version of the coach seats, wherein 2 seats, like I said, spread out to become just a cot. And for those of you who are taller, I am happy to report that the cot accommodates people over 6 feet tall. Yay! I was so concerned about that when I saw the accommodations online on a couple of folks' YouTube channels, and I thought, ooh, this could be a tight squeeze for me being over 6 feet tall, and how am I going to fit? But it actually was perfectly fine, and I'm not just talking about that lower bunk where the 2 seats kind of spread out, but I am happily talking about the upper bunk as well. And the upper bunk, again, is going to be more for younger folks. Not that I'm suggesting that all young people are healthy. Please, Spoonies, don't think that's what I'm suggesting. I happen to be a younger person who is not as healthy as some older folks. So please don't think that's where I'm going with that. But just on the whole, I think the top bunk is more appropriate for younger folks. Let's say teenagers through people in their 40s or 50s. Okay, so it's not for elderly folks. It's not for people who, are severely handicapped or disabled. It's definitely not for larger folks. Again, I'm sad to report that. I am, because I know we have a bit of an issue, I think, here in this country with judging and shaming folks, and I know that probably hasn't helped the sort of obesity as a symptom of other issues situation. So I'm all about body positivity at whatever size you may be, okay? But unfortunately, they just don't accommodate larger folks. If you are, I'm gonna draw kind of an arbitrary line just based on my experience in life and people I know and, my own weight and my own height. And I'm just going to say, let's be a little conservative and say that anybody over 250 to 300 pounds would not be comfortable in an Amtrak train. Okay, and I'm really sorry to report that, and I don't want to discourage anybody from taking a trip, but if you are a larger person, I would call Amtrak ahead of time, ask them what they suggest. If you're just one person and you're traveling and you're just around that line and you're not any larger than that, it may be possible for you to just get that upgraded sleeper car roomette, not the one my mom and I had without the sink, but with the sink. If you are slightly larger, or if you have other, mobility impairments that are quite severe, think about, talking to someone about that car. I know that for folks who do have mobility issues, they have, in the sleeper car, they do have lower level accommodations, which is nice. And there is a steward who comes around, and I'm sure if you have some sort of a major mobility issue, they would be happy to bring you your meals in your car, in your compartment. I am sure they'd be happy to do that, and there are washrooms right next to those compartments. So, talk to Amtrak. Don't just take my word for it. See what accommodations can be made. Maybe you can be made comfortable. The only issue I could foresee for a larger person or for somebody with major restrictive mobility issues would be the possibility that they could not get into the washrooms. That would be embarrassing and just complete and utter, excuse my French, but clusterfuck. So let's, think about that before we book a ticket. I did have quite a few people ask me about their specific health concerns after my first episode, and hey, I'm a bigger person, or hey, I'm somebody with, mobility issues. What do you think I could do? And that's what I would suggest. Call Amtrak and talk to them. They have a car that actually can pick you up if you can't walk through the station, which, the stations can be kind of large. Union Station in Chicago is quite large. So if you're somebody who has a major mobility issue, let Amtrak know before you book your tickets. And then when you do book your tickets, when you check in, you need to go up to the Amtrak desk and let them know that you have a mobility issue or that you're impaired in some way and that you need help getting to the train, and they will help you, which is really awesome. And like I said, if you're able to book that larger sleeper roomette on the bottom floor of the train, of that compartment, I think that it would be really possible for you to make this trip after all. So please don't feel that I'm trying to exclude or be restrictive or suggest that anyone with any, physical issues shouldn't take the trip. As I did mention in the first episode, nobody complained about that. That's just me overthinking things and wanting to let you guys know that I don't mean to tell anybody, hey, you shouldn't be able to take this trip. You should. Anybody really should. But, there could be logistical issues after a certain weight or size. If you're 6'5", 7 feet tall too, I have a couple of friends who are, you would definitely want to reach out to Amtrak beforehand, just as you should if you're in a wheelchair, if you're on crutches. We did see a couple of people on crutches. We saw a couple of people with canes. I've been known to use a cane on my absolute worst days. And then on my best days, I'm doing yoga and, running. Not right now, but when I'm not injured. So, it varies. We all know that it varies for us spoonies. So I think better to be safe than sorry. Make sure that you've got a comfortable area that you can retire to. And so let's talk about the actual sort of onboard accommodations that are offered. What do you get as part of your ticket? Well, obviously you get your coach seat or your sleeper roomette in the sleeper car, and you get 3 meals a day. You can purchase snacks. You can even purchase like burgers and veggie burgers and lunch meals outside of dinner, lunch, and breakfast hours, which is really cool. However, as my mom pointed out, there is this woman who is the change Nazi who stands guard faithfully at the desk where you go and order your items at the cafe in the cafe car. And my God, if you don't have exact change, you will hear about it. So think about bringing some change onto the car to make this poor woman's life easier, and so that you don't have to hear anything from the change Nazi, okay? Just think about it, okay? Because my mom was read the riot act when she went down to purchase some minor thing. She was like, everybody's paying with $20 bills. And my mom was like, okay, I'm sorry. How can we make this better? So, bring some change along. I'm sure it's a pain for them, but, they should really have rolls of quarters available. I mean, we've all had that high school job at Kmart or what have you, and if you're selling something, gosh, you usually have change available. But that's something most people wouldn't think about, so bring exact change. So you do have access to the cafe car 24/7. You don't have to eat the meals that they serve. However, they're included in your ticket. So I say, why not? You may as well take advantage of the meals you've paid for. And happily, and surprisingly, they do accommodate folks who are vegetarian and vegan. Yay! This is so cool. I was so excited to find that they actually had things I could eat. I actually brought a whole boatload of tofurkey sandwiches. Feel free to make fun of me because of that, awful episode of Everybody Loves Raymond that you've seen, because tofurkey is horrible. It's not, but I know I'm going to hear about it, so okay, I'm giving you permission. Dump away. Tell me about how awful tofurkey is. But I brought my tofurkey sandwiches on board in my little freezer bag, and I brought my healthy snacks on board thinking, that there wouldn't be anything to eat, and that my mom could probably suss out something to eat for herself, but that as a vegetarian who's mostly vegan, it might be a little tough for me. And thankfully it wasn't. There are some good Asian noodle dishes. There are some good veggie burgers. Gosh, let me think. What else do they have? They have pancakes. They have waffles, I believe. They have French toast. They have eggs. So if you're somebody who's a vegetarian who eats dairy, great. If you're somebody who prefers vegan, they do have options for you. If you're a meat eater, they have breakfast meat and, what have you. So it's surprisingly well stocked and well planned out. And if you are not in the coach car, if you're in the coach car, you can eat your meals in your seat, okay? If you're not in a coach car, you will be invited by a steward to come and join everybody for breakfast. And you basically schedule a time to go into the dining car and eat breakfast. Same for lunch, same for dinner. Now you have to stick to your scheduled time, and you show up about 10 or 15 minutes before that scheduled time. You can kind of just put your name in and see if they'll seat you, and if not, you can just have a seat in the beautiful viewing car. We'll get to that in a second. And as far as sitting down for your meals, the cool thing about this, and believe me, I was a skeptic at first. I really was. But the cool thing about this is that you have to sit with people you don't know. And oh my gosh, engage and talk to them. Whoa, novel concept, right? So that was pretty neat. That was a pretty fun experience. We talked to people from St. Louis. We talked to people from Australia who came to Australia by way of South Africa. We talked to people from all over the place. We talked to people from Ohio, Cincinnati, and, we just got to meet lots of people. We even talked to a couple of young men who had grown up in an Amish community and now did farm work. And it was just so interesting talking about, what they did for a living and hearing how they went about their lives and how they performed their jobs and just what technical aspects of, culling fields and storing feed and that sort of thing were present in their job. It was just really neat to hear what someone else's life sort of story was about. And as you know, I'm a talker, so I kind of like when I get to sit back and just listen and not be the one talking and entertaining and interjecting and having to say the intelligent thing. It's nice to just be able to sit back and listen and hear about someone else's experience and story. So that was very interesting and very fun. And just at every meal, there are usually two people traveling together. So my mom and I were traveling together, and then there were a few couples and relatives and, friends traveling together. And two of us would sit on one side of the little booths. Obviously, they have to have stationary booths in the dining car. And two would sit on the other side, and we would talk and finish our meal. And yes, they do kind of want to turn tables quickly because they have a packed train full of people waiting to eat at their scheduled times. You don't have to, gobble everything down, shovel everything in, but you kind of have to eat at somewhat of a clip. And I assume you can probably take things back to your car. I just, I had my snacks back there, so I didn't do that, but you don't have to bring snacks on even. You can just wait for your meals. You can go down to that cafe car anytime and get coffee or hot sandwiches or juice or soda or drinks. And we actually had two very good looking guys pay for our wine one night. So that was awesome. And of course, wine does not come as part of the meal. Beer and wine don't come as part of the meal, and that's okay. I mean, you're not going to be drinking a ton on a train car. I can imagine probably overindulging on a train car would not be a super fun experience as you're shooting across the country. I can't imagine that hangover would be any fun either, so nobody really overindulged much, and we just had a small glass of wine with dinner, and it was a nice surprise that some of the people we met got our drinks. That was very friendly and kind. So you'll meet a lot of neat people. You'll get to interact with people. Again, the unfortunate side of the dining car is that folks in wheelchairs, folks with crutches, not so much people with canes, but folks who have major mobility issues may not be able to be accommodated by that dining car. It might not quite work. There is a booth that you have to get in. It is tight quarters. So moving on to other folks that may have a little bit of an issue, again, I'm going to reach for that 250, 300-ish weight limit. I mean, depending on how tall you are, if you're a man or a woman, how you carry your weight, that could be an issue. Getting in and out of that very small booth could be an issue. Just as a tall person, I know my knees were sticking across and banging other people, so I apologized ahead of time for having, long arms and pointy elbows and pointy knees and long feet, and, I think people pretty much understand. And you're not there for too long, but if you are very large from front to back, you may find that you have a bit of a hard time kind of scooting into that seat. So, this isn't just a podcast about how awesome the ride was. I really do want to address, issues that affect people of varying levels of health, size, and mobility. And so keep that in mind if you are a larger person or somebody who has, again, major mobility issues. Just keep that in mind. You can easily talk to Amtrak and see what they can do for you. I'm sure they can find some way to help you to better enjoy your experience. Again, you might eat in your car. They may be able to bring you your meal to the dining or to the sleeper car, into your larger sleeper roomette, and you might be good to go. So talk to them first. they're very accommodating. I was very pleasantly surprised by the kindness and attentiveness of the stewards. Okay, and so I believe I mentioned this, but just in case I did not, you do eat all 3 meals in the dining car, not just dinner. So you go in for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you do need to be somewhat ready and decent by 8 or 9 a.m. Not that there's a lot of room for kind of sleeping in on the Amtrak train. You're going to want to go sit in the viewing car and look out the window for most of the ride, or at least I did. But you can rest as much as you want, but be somewhat presentable by between 8 and 9 a.m. And yes, you'll be moving through time zones, and yes, the time does stay the same. Whether you're on East Coast time, Central, Mountain, or West Coast time, it will be 8 to 9 a.m. where the steward comes by, knocks on your door, or comes up to your seat and says, would you like to join us for breakfast? What time would you like to join us? Or if you're in a coach car, what time would you like your meal brought in? Same goes for lunch, same goes for dinner. So you need to be prepared to tell them what time. If you are not awake or not present, you will be skipped over and you may miss that meal. So don't do that, because you're paying for these meals. Even if you just have to get up for a few minutes, if you are somebody like me with a few health issues to consider, just get up for a few minutes. Be decent and ready, talk to the steward, and then feel free to rest again if you need to. I know that trips of all kinds can be taxing for us spoonies. So, you're fine. You don't need to be performing in a Broadway show ready. You don't need to be red carpet ready. You just need to be somewhat dressed and washed so that you can talk with the steward and let him or her know when you'll be joining everybody for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And usually they schedule all 3 meals in the same visit, though I believe that a couple of times they asked us what time we wanted breakfast and maybe lunch, but then didn't ask us till later about dinner. So it just depends on basically when they get their stuff together in the dining car and how fast they can turn people out and what have you. So be ready in the morning. If you haven't booked your meals in the morning, be ready again at 10 or 11 to tell people when you're going to want to eat lunch, and be ready again before dinner, I'd say 3 or 4 p.m., to let everybody know when you're coming in for dinner, or when you are going to want your dinner brought to your seat if you're in coach, and what you're going to be eating. I apologize for the dead air. Now and again, I am having to clear my throat a bit from the smoke out here, so bear with me on that. It's definitely sending my sinuses in my ears and the pressure into a vertigo-y state, so forgive the dead air pauses now and again, like that one. As far as meals go, I think that's pretty much covered. Again, alcohol is not covered in your ticket at all. That's an extra, I want to say $7 or $8 a glass for a small glass of wine or beer. So you may just want to wait, till you get to where you're going to indulge, if you're going to do that. And I would say that the meals that you're getting are filling. I'm not a huge eater myself. If I really like something, I might finish it all, but I usually don't. So I'm not the person to ask. And if anybody else has any input on what you thought of the meal sizes and the planning of it, hey, feel free to weigh in. I'd love to know what you think. I felt like the meals were pretty large and filling and healthy, and I just kind of felt good while I was on the train cars, because I was eating well. If you're driving across country, you're probably going to be eating road trip food. If you're on a plane, you're probably going to be starving until you get to the next airport. Thanks, 9/11. And by the way, that was not me being crass about those who were lost, just simply the ridiculous way that we reacted. And, Apparently taking food off of flights is a great way to prevent future attacks. I hope that's working out for you guys. So anyway, if you're, flying, you might be starving. If you're driving, you might be eating crappy kind of road trip food. But if you're on an Amtrak train, you're going to be eating well. So there you go. That's a plus for us spoonies. Let's see, what else is there? So as far as the stewards coming by to get your meal planning information, if you're in the sleeper car and you don't have your curtains open and your door unlocked or open, they're going to assume you're asleep and pass you over. So again, by 8-ish, start opening the curtains, opening the door, listening for the steward to come by and let you guys know when you're going to be able to put in your name to go eat. Or again, if this is a possibility for those with mobility issues and other impairments, to know when your food can be brought to you and let the steward know what you're going to eat, right? So be ready for that. Don't keep that door closed or they will assume that you're not wanting to be disturbed. Also, a good reason to kind of be dressed and ready by 8-ish is that very kindly the steward will come by and change out all of your sheets and your pillows and put your bed, the bunk bed up, and he or she will separate the seats that make the lower part of the bunk and just turn it back into a train car for you. Or a train compartment rather for you. And so, if you don't want to do all of that yourself, it is a little bit of a pain to get the two seats that fold into the lower bunk to come together and move apart. Again, these cars are Pullman cars. They're not new cars. So, they don't have super new-fangled, technologically sound or technologically advanced amenities. They're cars like you would find in the 1940s. So maybe even earlier than the 1940s. So don't expect there to be a lot of it's not going to be like your SUV where the third seat folds down automatically or the lift gate opens up automatically. No, you've got to do all of these things by hand. So especially if you have health issues or mobility restrictions, it's a good idea to let that steward come through and attend to things for you. It really is. So think about being up and at 'em by about 8 a.m. Again, you can pull that bunk bed down if you need to rest later. Once the steward has changed out your bedding and changed your sheets and changed all of your pillows, you're good to go. You should be able to do that. And it's nice to have that level of help. It's nice to have that level of assistance. And it's nice to sleep on fresh, clean linens every night. If that doesn't bother you and you would prefer not to do that, I'm sure you can leave your door closed. Just realize that you will be skipped over for meals. And that you've paid for those meals. So, if that's an option for you, okay. I didn't want to do that myself because that seems kind of silly. But to each their own, and especially if you're totally exhausted and you're just not feeling it and you just want to go order something at the cafe car and go back to bed, hey, you're good. You can do that. It's a free train car. You can do whatever you want. So as far as that is concerned, I hope that that's a good comprehensive primer on all things meal related and accommodation related. As far as the viewing car goes, that's another incentive to get up at a decent hour. I'm not an early bird myself when I'm not working. I like to sleep in, but on a trip like that, it's nice to get up early so that you can go ahead and go enjoy that lounge car, that viewing lounge, as they call it. It is absolutely beautiful. And I will be putting together a YouTube video probably when I get back. I need some help with getting a few things in order on my computer. Apparently I don't have the right CD-ROM drive right now with me to run my Adobe program so that I can cut together some photos and put together a nice video for you. So bear with me. YouTube, those of you who are listening on YouTube right now, bear with me. I will be releasing a video in short order, but it's going to have to be when I get back. So I hope that, this entices you to go try this journey. Try it out. See if you like it. As far as the viewing lounge goes, get out there early. Get out there at sunset if you can, and you can sleep out there if you'd like. Many people do. You can watch the sunrise. You can watch the sunset at night. It's really beautiful. So if you get out there at a decent hour, you will get a seat. Oftentimes, the viewing lounge is taken up by coach passengers who, understandably want a bit of a change of scenery from their coach seat. And so if you want to get out there, it's a good idea to kind of get out there early. The early bird gets the worm in that particular instance. So get out there early. People do start retiring back to their seats and back to their sleeper roomettes, I don't know, between 11 and 1 usually. 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. that is. And you can sneak a view for a little bit or save a seat at that time if you want, when people start going back to their roomettes and back to their seats. Or you can just, sit out there all day, get a seat early, and there you go. You can sit out there at night. Many people retire back to their roomette or back to their coach seat at night. And if I didn't describe it aptly before, let me tell you that it is a beautiful, beautiful car. The walls are windows, and as they curve around up to the ceiling and down to the ground, they remain clear plexiglass. The floor is carpeted and not see-through, so you can't see through the bottom of the train. Not that would be a thing, but it's not a see-through boat tour, but it's very beautiful. It's just a wall of light and windows, and it comes in on both sides of the train. So no matter what side you sit on, you're going to get a good view. For whatever reason, I tended to like to sit on the south-facing side. I think I'm going to switch it up a little bit on the way back. It is just a really, really gorgeous view. And you can see different things on different sides of the train car. You can see different things on the way in than you can on the way out. And of course, as I mentioned, you will go through Glacier National Park. And you will go through a couple of national forests and past a couple of national monuments, which are really neat. And so you can sit and view all of these things. And of course you can see them from your coach seat, and you can see them from your sleeper car roomette, but you're going to be able to see them better in the viewing lounge. And you can spread out a little bit in the viewing lounge. You can plug your phone in the viewing lounge. I think you can in the coach cars too. I can only imagine that you would be able to. It would be pretty silly if you couldn't. And in the roomettes, you can plug things in. There's just one plug. So I was right in being Virgo-y and pre-planning and bringing a damn long extension cord that could plug about 15 different things into it. So I could plug about 4 things in. But it's a good idea to bring like an extension cord with you if you're traveling, especially if you're traveling with work things like your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your phones, if you're traveling with other people who have these items. It's a good idea to do that. Sadly, as I believe I mentioned before, the Empire Builder does not have Wi-Fi. That was a huge pain for me as I needed to get work done, connect with clients, do some writing assignments. I wasn't able to do those things, and I wasn't super thrilled about that. I was not super thrilled about that. So plan accordingly. That's the one and only thing I think they really need to change right away on that train, because it's not like you're taking a quick trip somewhere. You're taking a cross-country trip. So that's my one gripe is, guys, get your stuff together and get Wi-Fi aboard this train. It's pretty darn important. You're going to have people traveling who own businesses, who work, who are going to have to be in touch with their jobs or with their clients, and that's very difficult when you have no 4G, no signal in a lot of the places, and also no Wi-Fi. So that is the one downside to the ride, in its entirety. Make sure, hey, if you've got some sort of a mobile Wi-Fi router, bring it with you, or a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot rather, bring it with you. You would definitely benefit from that. And as I said, bring a long extension cord so that you can enjoy several different devices, so that people that you're traveling with can plug their stuff in. I believe I covered this in the last episode too, but I want to address the washroom situation. It is not a washroom that you're going to want to sit and stay in. If it's sit or squat, these washrooms are going to be squat. Okay, you feel me on that one? They're squat washrooms. They're not nice, luxurious, master baths like yours, or like the ones that you're used to in hotel rooms. They're not even just passably decent washrooms. They're basically like outhouse style, washrooms. So, are they bearable? Yes, of course. Bring baby wipes. You're going to want to feel fresh and clean, so bring your baby wipes. That is so important on this trip. You're not always going to find that there is a readily available toilet paper and paper towels. The stewards do the best they can to keep those washrooms stocked, but bring your wipes just in case, and bring them anyway so that you can feel fresh and clean, and it's a good idea to do. Also, for those of you who will be traveling on Amtrak, the flush button is to the right of the toilet, just under the sink area. It's a green square button, and you can find it if you look. It's going to take you a minute to sort of suss out where it is, but you do need to flush. A couple of folks did not think that these were flush toilets and continually used them as if they were just outhouse toilets. They are flush toilets. It is appropriate to flush after you've used the washroom, and keep that in mind for yourself and the comfort of other guests who choose to use the washroom after you as well. So keep this in mind. Another thing to keep in mind regarding cleanliness and washroom usage is, again, that you're going to have to be going up and down stairs, as we talked about before, unless you have worked something out with Amtrak prior to taking your trip, and you're going to be placed on the lower level of the sleeper car in a roomette. And, then you'll have access to the washrooms on your level. If you can have your meals brought to you, great. Otherwise, I would say that you would have to join everyone else upstairs in the dining car for meals. The stewards are there to assist you with anything you need, and you should definitely, again, talk if you have any restrictions or mobility issues or concerns about size or weight or height. Please talk to Amtrak ahead of time and work something out with them. But there are readily available restrooms on that lower area of the sleeper car. So that's definitely a positive thing for accessibility reasons. And there is a small shower area. Unfortunately, I did notice that it would be very cramped, I think, for a larger person. It would be very inaccessible for folks with mobility issues. So you may just want to kind of keep your baby wipes on hand, or purchase some cavi wipes or shower wipes or what have you, just to keep things fresh and clean. If you need to wipe down like surfaces because you have severe autoimmune issues, bring some, cleansing wipes with you for that. And, just if you have any of these issues that might prevent you from being able to access the shower room, just, again, keep those shower wipes handy or those baby wipes handy, and you should be okay. I'm not saying you're going to feel super fresh by the end of the trip, but you should be okay. One issue I noticed, aside from the size in the shower, is obviously your feet are going to be slipping around because you're moving on a very rough track across rough terrain. So be very careful if you're going to take a shower. Be very cautious with your footing and make sure that you feel comfortable taking that shower. If you don't, and you think you might fall or you're not going to be able to keep sure footing, that's okay. Don't, better to be safe than sorry. Don't take a shower. You can take one when you get to where you're going. So be safe, be careful. One thing, aside from that I didn't care for regarding how the showers were set up, was that unfortunately it did not seem that folks had attended to the drain, to maintain the drain. It was kind of stuffed up. I wasn't really noticing like hair and stuff coming out of it, but I was noticing that the water didn't want to drain. And again, that just adds to the slippery, soapy floor, and you're in a moving train. So that's probably not a good combination. Like, they should probably keep a little bit better track of things. Make sure that those drains are clean and clear and that water is going to flow down them easily. So just keep that in mind. If you have any mobility or health issues and you plan on using that shower, be very, very careful with your footing. And if you don't feel that you can maintain sure footing, again, better to be safe than sorry. Take a shower when you get to where you're going. Don't chance hurting yourself, okay? That was a challenge for me, not just because of my foot injury, but just it would be a challenge for any healthy person to kind of keep your footing in that shower. There's a very misleading sign in the shower that says that water will only last for 30 seconds and that you have to continually push a button to get it to come out, and that you won't be able to control the temperature. I'm not sure why that sign is there, because none of those things are in fact true. You can easily control the temperature. You can easily leave the water on for as long as you need it. It's just a knob handle, shower, like most showers are. You pull out the knob, you adjust the handle to adjust the temperature, and you're good. So I'm not sure what that sign is about, but ignore it. If you're on the Empire Builder, at least, go ahead and ignore that sign and use the shower as you would a normal hotel shower or the shower at your house. And you should be fine. Let's try to see what other things you guys might want to hear about. If you do have something that I didn't cover that you'd like to hear about, please let me know. Or if you have questions or comments or concerns, again, let me know either right here in the chat or on Facebook or on YouTube. Just ask me and I'll be happy to share my experiences and share any information that I might have with you about that. So, feel free. I'm here. Ask me anything. I know that I definitely was, my anxiety was out of control before the trip, just because I had to stock up on all of my various preventative medications. I had to bring all of those medications with me. I had to bring my supplements with me. I had to make sure that, I had my asthma inhalers just in case, and I was concerned that my motion sickness anxiety would act up. And I just was anxious about, am I going to be able to have access to the washroom when I need to with my health issues? Am I going to have access to a comfortable bed to sleep in? Am I going to feel comfortable on the train? And thankfully, I was very pleasantly surprised. I did not struggle with any anxiety on the train. I didn't get motion sick. I didn't get sick to my stomach. So, that was very pleasantly surprising, and I want to assure anybody who is traveling with anxiety, my anxiety happens to stem from a very serious accident that I was in, so very understandable that I would have it. But if you have anything similar, don't freak out. You're good, you're covered, you're your comfort has been thought of. Could things improve? Absolutely. Could we upgrade at some point, and God, I hope we do, to a high-speed rail system like other countries have? Gosh, yes, we could. And wouldn't that just be lovely if that were to happen one day? It's not in the works as of yet, but that sure would be very nice. However, for what we've got right now, it works, and you should be pretty comfortable on the train, on the Amtrak train. The only other thing that I would want to warn anybody about is, obviously, hey, some people might not have thought of this, so just bear with me. Obviously, you are on a train. You are going to have trouble maintaining your footing as you move throughout the train. So if you're injured or ill, take your time, be careful. If you're recovering from surgery or something, you need to not take that trip right now. But if you're injured or just have chronic illnesses or chronic conditions of some sort, you should be okay. Just take it slowly and carefully as you walk through the train, because you will end up banging into the walls now and again. You'll have close calls with almost falling into people's coach seats as you navigate through the coach cars. You do have to walk through the coach cars, and there are a few of them on each train, to get from the sleeper car and the roomettes to the dining car, to the cafe car, to the viewing lounge. So, just be aware that you will have to be doing some walking and some moving around, unless, of course, you have set something up with Amtrak beforehand and they're going to be able to accommodate you, like I said, on the lower level of the sleeper car or something like that. So, keep these things in mind when you book your trip, and I hope that you have a wonderful time if you do, and let me know what you think about it. If you have been on this train ride, on this trip, or if you do go in the future, let me know what your experience has been and what you think of it. And if anybody has any further questions about anything at all, please feel free to ask me. I want to put your mind at ease, especially if you're a spoonie, but really in any way, and no matter who you are, if you're concerned about taking this trip, or if you just have questions, feel free to ask me, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you, and hopefully put your mind at ease a little bit. Okay, so thank you again for tuning in, and we will catch up with you later.
Walked off to look for America. Kathy, I said as we boarded a great